And welcome back to the Basil Breen Boombox. I'm here with Daniel Crow, who was the first ever guest on the Boombox, and he actually helped push me into this direction of getting people on. So thanks for that, Dan.
No problem.
But you weren't here when I started trying to make up names for people. So I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm trying to bring in this thing where I try to think of kind of a moniker or a name for the person that I'm interviewing. So
Okay.
I want to go through some names, some potential names, right?
For me.
So yeah, I was brainstorming.
Okay.
I was trying to play on the crow thing, right? And
Right.
so don't take any of these personal, right?
Right.
But we're gonna go through them. So the first one is, and this is genuinely what I first thought of, right? So, and I don't know if it means anything, but the bird of death.
Sounds not like someone you want in your company. Yeah.
All right, so
All right.
we can move on. The crowbar.
I was called that for years during school and I hated it.
Oh no way! Are you taking the piss?
I'll give you a story actually on that one.
Yeah,
right?
please.
But I did not so we've got more of these.
Yeah, that's
Right,
right. Yeah,
right.
yeah. I got it. We
I
gotta find a
remember
winner.
Second year, right? This stuck with me from second year till the end of
No.
secondary school, right? So it was maths class, free class, right? That's the first time I said that in ages. Free class. And we were able to play hangman, right? So one of the lads, Kev, got up. It was his go. A film. Okay. And we were like A, B, C, D. And we gradually filled out all of the letters to RoboCop. But there was one at the start before the R, before it. And we were like, what is it? And he was in tears laughing. Crowbocop. Right.
Crowbocop. Ah, that's
Right?
genius.
It's not genius. That stuck with me for 4 years
Crowbocop.
during secondary school. Right?
Crowbocop.
Yeah. I got
No
that for
way.
4 years during school, and he just got it, and he could not stop laughing the whole time. But that stuck with me. And then I had crowbar, and I had all variations of.
Oh, so you had loads of them.
I
So I'm not the first person to try this.
No, everyone likes a good crow moniker.
That's
Or a
hilarious.
crow. Yeah,
There's
they
something
love
about
it.
it, but it's terrible when I won't mention the names that might have stuck. They didn't stick, but there's some terrible names I think that have stuck to people, and it is their name, and I can't really give any examples because I don't want to, shed light on these names. But
I really think you should give one.
if I could think of one, imagine one of them, right? And this isn't real. Was yo pile of shit, what's up? Or ugly bastard. Like ugly bastard, what's the crack? Basically that.
Yeah, I
it's
get
basically
you.
that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a funnier way. Or like deformity, what's up? You know what I mean? Not as no, they're a bit more explicit, but there was.
They're definitely ones you're picking up in secondary school as well.
That's
Like,
what I
they are
mean.
fucking
And what do you
100%.
do when a name like that sticks? It's over.
Yeah, no, it is. Like I had more.
Oh, come on.
No, fuck no. I had an like with these kind of things, right? Like, all right. I remember. I remember it was about. Is that like I was quieter at school, right? I was quieter at school, so you get a lot of lads that start mouthing to you. Grant. And just one day, one fella just goes, Did I see your mother on page 3 of The Sun? Right? And I was like, no. And then gradually the whole class was like, oh my God, Dark Crow's man was in The Sun. Right?
No.
That again stuck for 3 years. Right? Stuck for 3 years.
What does it mean that stuck? People are
Like,
like,
no, it was like you just get like a quiet moment in class, or you just walk into the class and someone would come out with that. But it wasn't until I got better with being slagged that it started to become more friendly. But at first I was like, I didn't know what to do with it.
I know.
But I didn't know what to do with it. But then obviously coming into 5th year, 6th year, you get a little bit better with it.
Yeah.
And then the lads, you become part of the joke then, as opposed to the butt of the joke. But man, fucking so many of these stuck.
Yeah.
So many of them.
It's interesting because I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about this. men, we haze each other to kind of test each other and see where the boundaries are. And you need to kind of be able to take a joke. I think it's really important that you don't take yourself too serious, and because then the worst. Well, I was a piss taker, you know what I mean, and I maybe pushed it a bit far with some people, and the reason I think I pushed it far with certain people, far as in, it was still, it was bad. It was bad, like if I look back at it now, but it wasn't as bad as like it could have been. But it was just annoying stuff, you know what I mean? I'd be pestering somebody because I found something like page three or something, or a way of doing something. And the thing that I fed off was the fact that they didn't want me to do it. And they were their reaction was what was feeding me, you know what I mean?
You see, I remember the moment I kind of copped. Don't.
Sorry.
Right.
You give me the ammo.
I remember. You see what I'm talking about? You see how easy it is. But I remember the moment. It was woodwork class, and again, you get lads taking the piss out of you. But I remember it was one particular person who took the piss, and I went, "Just don't say anything. See what happens." And gradually, those jokes start to die away, and then a lot of the other jokes start to die away. Now, and it becomes genuinely insulting stuff where they're going for you.
Yeah.
To after a while, it becomes they're joking with you.
Yeah.
And you can speak up a little bit. And I remember that it was third year woodwork class. And I can remember the person. I can literally remember the moment I kind of copped to myself. Don't say a word and see what happens. Because before that, I was always like, you speak up and then and you get more of it because the boss is like you,
100%.
right? And just one day then, and going into college, because I left school then. I finished when I was 17. Went into college twice. I was in one course, dropped out of that, and went into film. And that was when I was 23. And I brought that attitude into college with me, which was to take the piss and have a laugh, to not be the butt of the joke. Now, it was different by then.
I know.
But I went in with a conscious mind of, you're not going to take the fucking piss out. And there was, you wouldn't think it, but there was fellas in their 40s who had egos bigger than you've ever fucking seen. And they would choose the younger crowd to have a go at. And I had a fair share of rows with one or two of them, going, "You do that to them if you want, but you won't do that to me."
Jesus
It's
Christ.
it's a very different attitude. Like I remember, actually, it was editing. We were in editing class, and we had come from the challenge for this one was, we're going to go out and record a horror film with just sound. All right. So my first mistake with this particular guy was, he felt he was a known filmmaker. And so we're all driving in the car, going out to this house, and he said that he had made a film. And I genuinely just went, "I've not heard of it." He never forgot that for 2 years. He never forgot that particular comment, which was a nothing comment. But then after that, he became an unbearable bastard. He was just a bully of a character. And one day we were in editing class, and he didn't like a particular idea that I had. And the two of us literally squared off in editing class. Guy's in his 40s.
Oh my God.
I mean, and I said to him, "Fucking try me." And I said, "I'll throw you through that fucking window." Right? And that's the tutor has to come in, and he's like, "Right, leave it alone, leave it alone, leave it alone." And you are thinking to yourself, the guy thought I left all this behind at school, but I'm actually doing it with a fella who's 3 times older than the people.
Insane.
That ego was just through the roof.
Wow.
It was ridiculous.
That dynamic can just appear anywhere.
Yeah. And look, I'm not a fighter, but at the same time, don't take the piss either. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to fight you. Anytime someone wants to start the fight, I'll always be the one to actually say, "Look, I don't want to fight you.
Yeah.
But if you have to fight me, then I'll fight you." But what's the problem? And his was just that his ego was too big to take any kind of, "You don't know who I am." And in every class, his idea as the 40-something-year-old was better
Oh, yeah.
than the
Automatically,
20-year-olds.
yeah.
Automatically.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard dynamic. So it's like, and in that kind of class, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
You know.
No, in college, there was a sense of, the older people in the class somewhat feeling that they were better. Even, like, let's say they did a little test. One test I remember or not test, it was like a thought experiment to build a bridge out of paper or something, and you were put into teams. And I kind of came up with this way, I remember, that was a bit out there, you know what I mean? So it was about, like, if I took the paper and I started I instructed my team to start creating this sort of structure. But it was still legal, it was still using paper, but I forget what it was, but something clicked. And I remember we were getting tested, they were putting stuff on it. And one of the lads, who I thought was pretty sound, he could see that ours was holding strong, and he was like, he wasn't happy with it. He wasn't happy, and it was just a fun little game. He was like, no, you left it on for too long, and I was just like, whoa, I just thought this was a bit of
competitive.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's crazy when people, and we all have to be aware of it ourselves as well, because there's areas in our lives where we're all capable of taking ourselves too serious, and that's where you become delusional, and you don't even notice it. If you had said to your man, like, you take yourself too serious, you wouldn't even know what that means. He's swimming in that water of seriousness and ego, and I'm definitely better than these people, you know what I mean? And they can't really see that.
He tried to make up for, like, sort of once it was all said and done.
Okay.
You kind of just leave it go.
Yeah.
But for 2 years in the class, it's like, where were you fucking the last 2 years? Now all of it's done. What's all this? Like, dude, I'm really sorry for that. And I'm like, you're in your 40s, pal. Where was this for 2 years? There's no point in telling me now. Like, I'll never see you again.
That's crazy.
You know? Look, it is what it is. But the point was that you kind of, you learn at a certain age, take a slagging, give a slagging.
Yeah.
You know? But, and I try my best with that. You know, I try my best, give it out and take it as well.
Yeah.
And I don't mind taking it. But you have to be, huh?
No, never mind. You'll catch it in the edit.
Because 4 things went through my own head there when I said that, right? But I don't mind it, because I kind of learned. I kind of learned to, you know what I mean? So
yeah, another technique that I've seen work really well. Well, not consciously, but when someone slags me, like, shout out to Pat O'Grand, I can't even repeat some of the things he says to me when he
baptism
first
of fire, like, it's just
amazing. But I actually love it so much. I laugh so hard at it because it's actually really funny. I just separate myself from it. You know what I mean? And because I am real accepting of it, it allows him to turn it up even more. You know what I mean? So we get to new places with the slagging.
He's like, I didn't realize I was capable of this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And another thing as well, but then it's not. Then we're all in on the joke as well, because I'm laughing with them. It's like, yeah, you're right. That's actually pretty funny that I look like without. I won't get into it, and then also being self-deprecating as well. That's just a good thing to sort of internalize, because we're fallible. You know what I mean? And if people see that, oh, this person's okay with not being the dog's bollocks, and they're having a laugh, it's very disarming, I think. And then, but sometimes if people actually have a joke at you, right? Say if someone said you're real overweight to you, and then you were like, yeah, I guess I am really overweight. They'd be like, well, sometimes. I'd imagine most of the time, you're not that fat. You're not that fat. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that.
Exactly. Now there's this awareness that I'm actually just a dick.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what it does. It puts that spotlight on it. So if you go, yeah, actually, you're right. it's so painful that it's like, no, I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah. I'd be one of those people as well. Like, if I give it out to you, give it back a bit. There's nothing worse than when you're really giving your best stuff to somebody and they shrink and they take it. It's like, no, don't do that. We're trying to build something here.
Yeah.
So if I'm giving it, give it back to me. Don't just get hurt by it.
I
Because
know.
if you get hurt by it, it's over. Like, what have we
I
got
didn't
here?
mean that.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't want
yeah.
it for that. You know what I mean?
It's like, what is that feeling in my
Yeah,
stomach?
but you kind of have to learn that as the dance goes on with somebody. You know what I mean? Where their kind of sore points are, and then. But I think if you're like self-deprecating and unable to laugh at yourself, that quickens up the process of connection with people. Definitely, you know what I mean? Because it's one less barrier to have to worry about overcoming. You know what I mean? Oh, maybe we can't talk about this with person. Maybe we can't talk about that with that person. And then if you have stuff that you can't talk about, it creates an otherness for the other person.
Creates a what?
So my thinking, I don't want to actually get into this because I'll have to talk about it afterwards because I'm worried that if I say it in the way that I say it, it'll come across wrong. But when we have a disability to sort of connect with somebody because of stuff that we're not allowed to talk about, I think it creates that other. It's like they're different. That's a different. That's different than me.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because you have that sort of terminology, whatever it is that's creating that separation in your head, you gravitate towards that separation instead of sort of togetherness. But I'll continue on with some of these names. How about that, Daniel? Would you like that?
I'd love another moniker. That.
All right. So we got the crowbar, and then we found out, well, there's a lot of names, and a lot of people have attempted this in the past. So what about the scavenger? It's not really. The rest of them start getting a bit positive soon.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't love it.
You're really scavenging for water right now.
I'm not. It's right there on the table. Like it's.
He's kicking me under the table. All right, this might be hilarious. For some people, I bet your missus might like this one. Mr. Crow-it-all.
Some might agree.
Yeah, I think I could use. People use that on me, maybe.
Where exactly am I using these?
I don't know. I'm going to use them the next time I introduce you.
No, you're not.
Well, I'm going to use one of them.
All right, Mr. Crow-it-all then.
Mr. Crow-it-all is brilliant.
No,
but there's more. There's two more.
Right, go on.
There's the cream of the crow. I didn't think that was true.
That's dirty as
All
hell.
right.
Yeah, right.
Well, then the other one is kind of because you're a smooth operator usually on the mic. You know what I mean? So I was thinking something to do with cream. That's where the cream came from. If anyone's wondering where the cream came from. Then the last one, unfortunately, we have to go back to the dairy, which is creamy crow. So.
Do you know what? Creamy crow will do.
The creamy crow.
The creamy crow.
Because it's creamy, like a good whipped
creamy
bit
crow.
of dairy.
Yeah. Creamy crow.
Yeah.
That'll do me.
Yeah. All right. So, welcome
long
back
did
to
that
the Baz
take
the
you?
Brain Boombox. I'm here with Creamy Crow. It took me. So the Bernadette was what triggered the whole bit. You know what I mean? When I thought of the Bernadette, I was like, oh, that's hilarious. Like, so I wonder because if I put that to him, it's a bit comedic, whatever. So then, if I think of a few of them, that'll be a bit. You know what I mean? I didn't know it was gonna fucking take us into different territory.
The depths of darkness.
Yeah, and my childhood. Yeah. Don't say that again. Turn it off.
Creamy crow.
But it's interesting though because I didn't realize that you went to film school, and that's something I was wondering.
Segue.
Yeah, I'm getting good at my segues, haven't I?
Segue.
Don't say it.
You didn't even notice.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. I noticed though. Well, we all notice. But I'm fucking segueing to Dan's origin story as a short film writer, director, whatever you fucking want to call it. How did you get in? What was your first inkling that, okay, this is something that I want to try and do? Because I actually had a look at a script there. For one, I've seen a few scripts, but actually reading a full script, I've never done it. And the way it's laid out and seeing that there's certain particular structures and format that you follow, but obviously that's a learned skill or format or whatever. So when did you think, Jesus, I wonder what it's like to be a writer or a director?
it's do you know, I wrote something when I was 13, and it was 45 pages,
What?
right? Yeah, I wrote it when I was 13, and it was it was almost like it was me. It was about a kid from Limerick who had a hard time at school, and he took up boxing, and he moved to New York, and he became himself a world champion boxer.
Well.
Yeah. So I wrote that. I wrote that when I was 13. I kept that for years. I'm disgusted that I lost that because I don't know where it is. I've wanted to show people that because I don't know where it is. I've always wanted to look back and see how good or bad the writing was, how much of it made sense.
Such a piece of nostalgia.
Yeah, but and I remember it was on blue paper, and I kept it in the top drawer of a desk for years, and now I don't know where it is. But I was always writing from when I was like even far younger, always just writing. Like when I was in sixth class, I wrote a version of Chucky at school, like Chucky the doll. Yeah, and I remember there was like I wrote a scene about a doll in the back of a car that stabbed someone through the back seat, through the back of the seat. Like I was like I've always, but I never. And then obviously you're addicted to watching films, and like I didn't have. Sounds like the saddest thing to say. I didn't have a big group of friends when I was at school.
Yeah.
And actually over the years you accumulate more. It's kind of funny. You get into your 20s, you accumulate more friends, and then as that goes on, you start refining it down to just a small handful. But as a kid, you don't have them. So then you're watching movies, and I'd listen to the commentary, and I'd watch the actors. Bet into it. And then kind of about 19 or 20, I was like, I'd love to go to film school or something. But then I tried actually, it's really bizarre. I went when I was 20 to college to try and be a guard. And it was really weird because this is what I thought. So this is what I'm applying for, right? This is a stepping stone to being a guard. Okay. And about 3 weeks before the course started, the exact words from the woman who called me were, due to lack of interest, we won't be going ahead with the course, but we have something similar. And I was like, okay. And when I started, it was actually an English class, which is not similar.
Similar to being a Garda.
Similar to the training it takes to be a guard.
Oh my goodness.
So I dropped out of that, and I was like,
if you like being a Garda, you're gonna love English class.
Exactly, yeah. And I obviously I dropped out of that, but then I thought, no, I want to do something. So I went to Coláiste Dúlaigh, did film for 2 years, got myself a higher national diploma, and you sort of think about, will I bother doing a third year?
Yeah.
Because I've heard that the third year was a repeat basically of the second. And you're thinking to yourself, well, a degree is no guarantee of getting into the business. It's not like other ones, business or whatever else. If you have a business degree, you have a good shot. Filmmaking, it doesn't work like that. So I sort of thought to myself, I'll work away and do it on my own. I'll take that national diploma, I'll work away and do it on my own. And that was kind of the beginning of it. And then after I left school, I worked on a mini series for TG Cahir called Wrecking the Rising, which was, I worked as a runner, and it was about three fellas.
Sorry, what's a runner?
The gopher. So
What's a gopher? Like, stop using this term. Tell me what it is. It's a pigeon.
It's basically somebody who does the running around for you. What do you need? Coffee, lunches?
Okay, yeah.
So that's what I was doing.
Assistant.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, make spice
They
it
don't
up
do
a
that.
bit.
Yeah. Now on the CV,
I was
the
the gopher.
Assistant.
Yeah.
Right, but no, I mean, you get on
What you
as
put in
a
your CV?
runner.
You don't put the fucking, I was the gopher.
Yeah. No, not the gopher. You don't put down a twat. You don't put down, I was the gopher. But no, it was in the office. It was in the office. And it was, doing up the sides and the scripts for the actors for the following day. But I just kept pestering them. I was like, can I just go out onto the set? And then suddenly one day they were like, right, they actually do need someone out on the set to help the camera crew. It's brilliant. Now, it was 12-hour days. Like, they were long days. You never got tired of doing them. Now, I only did that for about 6 weeks, but what you see, the setups and how it works, just brilliant, fantastic. And there I went, yeah, okay, you're right. But
You get to
I
see the
was
whole process, basically.
the whole thing. But what you realize is when a director has a setup, yeah, and he's going to get a wide shot, he's going to get people passing through a shot. I never realized until I was actually on the set just how often they shoot that again and again and again. And you're like, lads, you've got it. Move on. Let's do it one more time. But I also found out that you don't speak up. Now I'm one of those people. I was more so at the time. Do you need a hand? Let me give you a hand. What do you need? But you can't do that to other departments. So I was part of the camera crew. Director sets up a shot, and he's like, the fucking sun coming in from the back is ruining this shot. And I thought to myself, well, if you just hold up an umbrella, that'll solve the issue a little bit for this particular shot. I got a bollocking.
What?
You don't get involved. You don't get involved. It's not your department. I was like, are you serious? All I did was offer a bit of... Just keep out of it.
Okay.
So in the end, they did that just with a screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I learned a lot and I enjoyed it. But it was just after that then, 26, 27, I didn't drive. It's very hard to get jobs on that. And then I got to, when I was about 27, a guy said to me once, you're too old now to be employed. They want somebody to be in a runner position.
Okay.
They want somebody who's 18, 19, impressionable, doesn't want to live off a lot.
Yeah.
You're going to have expectations. So he said to me, the best thing that
you're too hard to put. It'd be harder to push over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been. I was like, no.
I'll do anything.
Push me over. What do you need? But he said that to me. He goes, the best thing you can do now is just go your own way, write and direct yourself, and try and get your own way in that way, because it won't be as necessarily as a runner.
Interesting.
Starting from the bottom. So
that's your whole legitimate career.
Yeah, I mean,
your professional career.
Yeah. But do you know what it was like? I've said this before, so it's not new. Anxiety, and I heard you speaking about this. I think it was with Janelle, where you're talking about anxiety, and you have to check yourself to make sure it doesn't.
Oh yeah.
And for me, I wasn't good at that for an awful long time. And so the idea of going out and trying that to write and failing at it, I just didn't do it. So it's only now, actually, over like the last year, I've actually kind of gone, do it now.
Yeah.
Because you're in your 30s. It's not like the window is open for you forever.
Yeah.
Do it now. So.
Well, yeah, the thing that you have to remove, and it's something that I always had to deal with, was age. Because obviously now there's a physical or there's a reality to, okay, they're not going to hire an older runner or whatever. But in terms of whatever you're doing, age actually doesn't matter. Like, and I know I probably hashed this out before, because just to give you a sense of, like, I'm literally starting the piano from scratch this year. I've got all the materials and I'm taking it very serious, but I'm 31 learning the piano, and I'm not thinking, geez, I'm too old. I would have thought that in the past. Now I'm thinking, imagine how good it's going to be when I can play the piano.
Yeah, but I think there's differences now between you and I in this particular respect, right? Aside from, I mean, we're obviously the very same in a lot of other ways, but
a lot of cream.
But one of them is, I am of that opinion now, that if you do it now, there's still fucking plenty of time. You're not running out. But I am with somebody who I want a long-term relationship with, going way off into the future, and you're thinking family, and you're thinking, once you have that family, responsibilities change, your time isn't your own.
Yeah.
And for you, you're happy enough right now doing for you.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I have a sort of timeline in my own head, which helped.
Yeah.
Which helped sort of go, right, get over it.
Yeah.
Get on with it. So
Okay,
that's
that
where
makes
I
sense.
am. Yeah. So that's where I am.
Yeah, because there is a limit on. There's a time for when you're gonna decide, okay, this is when we're gonna have to look into starting a family now. You know what I mean? So if you have that horizon in your head, that's a definite. You know what I mean? That's a real reason. You know what I mean? To try and fucking, because it is hard. I can't even imagine. Like it's hard for me. It's not even hard. It's not that hard for me now because I'm only doing like work, like paid work, 2 days a week now, which is amazing. I've
bliss.
exited the matrix. Like today, I spent 4 hours learning, like basically the first half of my day writing music and fucking playing piano. And then the next half, I was just analysing Mark Ribelay and really analysing every
You
sound
like
that he's
Mark.
using. Oh, he's unbelievable.
He's
That's what I'm going to
savage.
try and be. I think I can. That's why I want to learn piano. That's why I want to. I think I can do that improv stuff. You know what I mean? I can do it the vocal stuff, but he's unbelievable at it. And he's
Did you ever watch him on Sway?
Sway in the morning.
Sway in the morning.
Sway
Have you
in the
seen-
morning.
Yes, I watched that one
Sway.
on a loop.
Oh,
For
man.
God, no, he's just
He's unreal.
class.
He's the best, man. So obviously, I want to try. It's not like I have to be as good as him, but I can definitely move towards, and it'll be my own style, my own flavor. And I'm discovering more and more. Like I did a deep dive. I took one of his songs, for example. I chopped every loop that he brings in. I document it. Like he's bringing in the drums there, the hi hats, the snare. Then he's bringing in the bass. Then he's bringing in the chords. And then I'm like, okay, what instrument is he using? So now I'm trying to learn. Okay, that's a clavinet. That's a type of old kind of electric piano, but it kind of has this funk sound. And I was trying to find it in my library, and I was like, okay, that kind of sounds like it. Oh, that's an organ. So then I'm building up my vocabulary of musical, and then I was
Okay.
looking at YouTube videos then on how to program an old B3 organ. So trying to reproduce his sound. But now I'm realizing that I can even go because I want to. Oh, jeez, I'm going off on the deep end here. But
No, because I have a question for you once you're done there. But go on.
so
yeah.
basically, what I think so I need to the problem I see now, right, is that my vocabulary for sounds and music is not as fast as it could be. Like when I hear a sound, I can categorize drums and I can categorize acoustic instruments and stuff, but there's stuff that's still out of my reach now, you know what I mean? And I won't get it until I do it. So until I get more familiar with it, and that's just basically just grind and just trying to copy sounds and trying to recreate sounds. But what thing I also want to do is do sound synthesis. So like, do you ever hear like a synthesizer?
Mm-hmm.
So that's basically from like creating sounds from voltage using kind of mathematics. So there's particular like there's I don't understand the deeper mechanics, but imagine there's basic shapes of waves, right? So there's a sine wave, a square wave, a pulse wave, a saw wave, and all of these have a particular sound. The sound is called a timbre. So every instrument has its own timbre, and when let's say you pluck a string on the guitar, you think you're playing just that note, but the other frequencies are resonating, but they're at lower volumes, and that's what creates the actual sound. So a synthesizer is actually closer to just pure raw sound, unadulterated or whatever you want to say. And so then you can start manipulating it. So one example would be the attack of a sound. So imagine I had a sound like this. I was like, bap, 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 real quick attack. And this is a slow attack. It takes a while to hit its peak. That's just one parameter. Then there's release. There's that's just anyway. Sound.
So tell me this, right? In all the learning that you're doing, does it take away from your feel of music? Because that sounds fair. I tell you why. Because I've noticed in the closest example that I have was social psychology. And I did like a short course in that last year. The awareness of certain things has changed how I act in certain situations because I was aware of it. Whereas before, you're aware, but you don't know anything about it. All right? So you become more aware of the mechanics, which takes away from the feel of a situation. So does your learning the mechanics of it all, which you need to do. If you're going to be a good musician, you need to learn the mechanics. But the way you speak about it is very, I'm learning mechanics. Is there any downside to your feel when it comes to making music? Because I think that's the thing with Mark Rebier, is he's very much about the feel and in the moment, and he knows about what he's playing, but he's all feel.
Well, so if you take Mark Ribble, for example, it looks like he's just coming up with all this stuff off the top of his head, which he is, but it's within his particular framework. So when he's playing the piano, he's usually reaching for a kind of a bluesy kind of minor pentatonic scale, from what I could tell, and what I've researched. So the notes that he's hitting are in a certain, like, imagine there's 12 notes, and a scale is 7 of them notes, right? So there's multiple, and then there's different types of scales. A pentatonic scale is only 5 notes. So there's all these types of, there's ways of grouping the notes, right? And deciding, okay, I'm only going to play these notes, and then therefore the producer's kind of, it locks you into a particular sound or style, or you can only use certain chords and notes. So he has a massively deep understanding of the underlying music theory principles, right? And that actually, I think, it only adds, I think, to your ability to, because you could play by ear, and he can play by ear and stuff, but his ear gravitates towards, there's like a confluence, or a sort of, there's a, the two things kind of come together. Your intuition overlaps with the music theory, and it actually adds to a fuller picture.
I think that's flow state. Being able to get into a flow state is a massive part of that,
so you need to, the mechanical stuff, like knowing particular chords, for example, with the piano, you need to do that until you don't have to think about it anymore. So that's basically what it's about. It's about just doing the thing until you've internalized the mechanics. And when your intuition then, so for example, if I have a chord in my head, but I don't know how to technically play it. I just know, and then I have to keep hitting it. It's like, all right, that was the one. Or it kind of sounds like the one. But the more you build up your library and vocabulary, it means that your brain, it's like, if you didn't know English, you wouldn't be able to think, right? So if you didn't know, there's lots of stuff in music that if you don't have a language for, you actually can't really think about it as deeply as you can.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm understanding more about learning, and especially with music, because it's such a deep, so like there's the music theory, there's a piano, there's a playing, then there's music synthesis, then there's actually like arrangements, so like, arranging the song, like drums, bass, like chord, whatever you want to put in, and I'm just taking a massive deep dive into it, which
So is that adding then, instead of taking away, is learning all of that helping
it's
with rhythm and creating music and all that sort of stuff? Because you told me a while ago, I don't necessarily see the music being a big thing. I don't see it taking over. And now all of a sudden, there's this push. And is it the more that you're learning, the more that you're playing? Is it even the podcasting? Is it the more you're speaking to people and you hear different lives? Is confidence growing with it? Or is it just...
Well,
I just made a conscious decision.
There's a lot that kind of is playing into it.
It's a big question, that one, actually.
Well, the main reason that I was probably shying away from kind of admitting that the music is really what's in my heart in a way is because kind of like a fear and a kind of embarrassment maybe, in terms of it just sounds like a ridiculous thing. You're just going to pursue music, and but I'm not pursuing it for financial or even... I'd never. If I can keep the money in my programming, I'd actually be fine with that. You know what I mean? And then that kind of liberates me, because I'm not, when I'm doing the piano and I'm learning, I'm spending like a few hours doing it. I'm not thinking I need to produce something for this. I'm just actually learning the piano, which is real liberating. So I can spend some time doing it. But that's just one part of it. But then the real kind of reason maybe was because I was developing this app with a very good friend of mine, Chuck. Shout out to Chuck, actually, potentially listening. We're probably on the app, on Intercast. I'm going to be on it very soon, trying to promote it a little bit to help Chuck out, because he's still working on it. And it just got to a point where I realised that it wasn't what I wanted to do, and I had to have a very difficult conversation with Chuck about that. And But he was totally understanding. You know what I mean? He's like one of my very, very good friends, and
Is he same age? I'm not trying to derail
I think
you.
he's like, could be 2 or 3 years. I don't want to
Oh,
out
right.
joke
Yeah,
now.
no, that's
He has a
okay,
kid
yeah.
and everything, little
Yeah.
Otto, great family, his wife thing. So, but his dream is sort of to kind of build a company in a way. You know what I mean? Sorry, I just want to. Little screen went black. So.
You're one on Tinder rope back to
So yeah. Just had to get quickly back to that. You know what I mean? Didn't condition my hair for nothing now. But so that was kind of when I realized that like this, I don't want to build a company. Even in my wildest dreams, I don't like what I want to be doing is spending my time getting deeper with music because I feel like I'm only I was only doing it little bits. You know what I mean? And never being able to just spend hours into just stuff that's not going to produce a product in a way, you know what I mean, or produce money or produce anything. And I have, because I've been a developer for so many years, I've built up expertise in that domain where the money I'm getting for the contracting is pretty good. It wasn't always good though. You know what I mean? I started at the bottom. Now we're here. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So you know what I mean? I've earned whatever I've gotten. I've earned. I've done as much as you can as a software engineer. I'm now, I don't want to get too into that. But so the point is that when I finally, because I was telling everybody I was building this app as well, and that was kind of, that ties you in, and then that's what you're doing. And then I had this pipe dream, especially when I started doing the contract, and I realized, geez, imagine in a few years I could contract and then do the music stuff, and still have financial support and be able to just like go into this even deeper. But I was putting that off.
So were you actively working then to create a career where were you making openings in your career with music in the back of your mind, or did you just find yourself arriving to a point in your career where you're like, oh, I'm actually there now, I can do this?
Yeah, actually it does happen. Me and Chuck talked about this because we were talking the other day just about how this all came to be, and one of the potential catalysts was the fact that we started contracting, and then that made me realize, hang on, I can do this work for a little bit of time and then do my own stuff. And that's what, like, the way he's so spot on with this. He's very he's real empathetic. He's really good at understanding people. Like if you tell him I hurt my arm, like he'll wince.
Yeah,
he has this ability.
I like those people.
Yeah, he's real.
Yeah,
He understands. He's able to mirror people. He's really good at accents and just embodying people and understanding them. So he kind of got that down really well, I thought, and that's what made me sort of started thinking, Jesus, because and then maybe that's what I thought entrepreneurship and building a business would give me, would give me freedom. But building a business and building a company, that takes a massive commitment. But it wasn't what's in my heart, and I don't think I'd be able to build a company and give it the full shilling and make it successful if I wasn't all in on it. You know what I mean? Like I in my hands right now, I have the capacity and ability to become a really well-rounded musician. You know what I mean? And it could take many number of years, but I could actually, from time and effort, become really good at the piano. Who knows how long it'll take? And I could become adept at creating sounds with synthesizers, and I'll get even better at guitar because I've always practiced. So, and what's stopping me? Only time and effort. So as long as I'm willing to put in time and effort into these things, I'm going to see an improvement. Like the podcast, everything you put time into, you get back. You know what I mean? And then every time you do something new or something that you never thought of before, there's such symmetries and parallels in everything basically, that even now when I'm learning the piano and the way I've broken it down, I spent ages. It was real debilitating in a way when I was trying to figure out where I needed to spend my time. It just happens to be there because I'm actually down here now because Sean's in Malaga. So I've taken over down here, so I'm just looping.
I've seen the videos.
Yeah. So I'm having a good time down here. But I'm seeing now well, I could apply some of it because with the guitar, I've never really. I know I'm going off on one, but it's my podcast. But and you ask me questions. So with the guitar and with the strumming, I've always been able to get better at strumming and playing, but I've never put time into, okay, what about scales? Like, what about like solos? What about finger picking? And I've always just kind of just been like, what I'm doing now is grand. Do you know what I mean? But now I'm thinking, well, why not put some time into these other areas in a similar fashion, in a way that you can break it down and find a syllabus, create a syllabus for yourself, and then pursue that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and then even with the podcast, and even one idea that I haven't done, but try to record myself more, just speaking on my own, and then understand where, like, I have to give myself a bit of leeway, right? Because I am
Well,
just.
you better say credit.
Credit is the wrong word, because
right.
leeway is the right word, because the leeway means that I'm not cracking the whip too hard on myself when I hear myself go into a like spasm where I'm like, and it just, I get so excited, and that word is just, like, when I'm listening back to it, it hurts me so much, man. But then again,
I've heard you mention that like several
I know
times.
that's like my, it's
right
my
there.
one, and I don't think I'll ever get away from it, and I just have to kind of accept that as part of me, and as part of my energy maybe, and just try not to lean on it in such a lazy way. But when I'm thinking of how I can improve in that particular area, or just get more comfortable speaking maybe slower and more, not worrying about filling in the gaps, or trying to not be too in my, like right now I'm real comfortable. I think I've earned comfortability in this space a bit more, you know what I mean? I'm better at the segues, you know what I mean? I can kind of see them, and when I see the opportunity, and then I'll save the opportunity in my head, and then I'll use it again in a way.
Right.
I can't really explain it.
No, I get it.
But
Yeah, I get it.
But
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know where we ventured off, but I'm having a good time with it anyway. And
But you're posting up on your Instagram the whole time now about lyrics, things like that, right? Are you at a point then where you go, do you know what? Or even at what point? Because I know you have an album you brought out, like a little. Is it an album?
soon.
Does it what?
Oh no, the album. That's just, it's called an album as it's just a marketing ploy. It's really just a collection of all the songs that I kind of properly recorded.
No, I asked because I was like, what's the difference between an LP and an EP
so
and an
EP
album?
it's called it's an extended play. That's what it stands for. So then that's basically usually like 2 or 3 songs. LP is actually a long play, so that's what an album would actually be.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So when you hear EP, it's that could be 2, like a little EP. Usually 3 though.
Yeah. Because have you come to a point then where you're like, do you know what? Or when do you come to a point where you go, do you know what? I've learned enough now at this stage that I have to start putting that to use for an album. Not just making a collection of ones I've already done, but literally setting out and going, I've learned enough that I can at least make an album.
Teeing me up here nicely now, because it actually, that's something that I have put. I've I've set out what needs to be done in terms of the songs. I've made a set list, and I actually started recording the guitars. But I've kind of helped to soundproof parts of my room with acoustic blankets.
I saw.
And the plan, the plan is to actually record an album. But I've kind of taken. But first I was gonna get all the songs, and wait until I have them all recorded, and then put it all out as one thing. But it's not. I don't think that's it doesn't help drive me and my psychology.
Okay.
So I think just recording and releasing them in having them, they're like the little goals, because then I'm putting out more of my music, and because I'm not. For me, someone in my position, as in I'm like an unknown artist, I don't need to, like, what I need to do is just be putting out more music, and not like in regular intervals, rather than and learning more about the process. And then by saying to myself, okay, I want to at least try release a song a month, that goal seems a lot more feasible, because there's lots of unknowns as well. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna do as best I can. So I have a good little space. I'm getting a new microphone for the guitar because I want to record the microphone or the guitar with 2 microphones, so you get like a fuller sound. You pan one left, you pan one right,
That's what
and
I was
then your
thinking
voice
of.
comes
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
And then I could try get someone else to mix it as well, and I might get multiple people to mix it, and then because you can just do it for cheap enough on Fiverr, and then try to reverse engineer what they did in a way, and then try to do my own thing, and then. But the thing about you just want to basically because there's not going to be many tracks, right? It'll be vocal, the guitar, and then I might add something else. But that's if I start thinking like that, then I need to start. That's the basics. That's what I need to start with at least, and then potentially add in other kind of virtual instruments or get people to play other instruments or whatever. But that's where I'm at with that now. So basically, the album will take shape in the form of I'm just going to keep releasing the songs and then eventually it'll have an album. You know what I mean?
You see that for me, I have a feature film idea, and like it's a big enough one, and I'm like, if I could make that, it'd be. I think it'd be brilliant if it came off, but I know myself. I go, but I'm not nearly skilled enough yet to make that.
Yeah.
I'm a nobody. You're not going to get any money for this because you're a nobody. So I'm going, I need to put out however many short films.
Yeah.
So that's why I've got one out then a few weeks ago. We're going to do one. And I've got a bunch of other ideas there, partially written, got an outline for, and just get through them. And it won't be as quick as one a month, but it'll be
the iterations will be quicker.
yeah, it'll be at least fucking a lot quicker than what I had been doing, which was known in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's like you've got the ideas, you've got more confidence after doing the last one, and because of the confidence, the ambition for this one, is bigger. So grow and learn, and then hopefully one day that feature, I can get that done.
Yeah.
And why not?
Exactly.
You know, and why not?
Yeah.
So
that's a great way of doing it, and it ties in with this. I ended up down the YouTube rabbit hole a bit, and there was a lad who had this video. It was such a great clickbait title, but it was the 3 takeaways from reading 300 self-help books. And I only kind of listened to the first bit,
right.
But he talks about this. There was this study, like imagine they gave these college students an assignment, and they were graded. One group was graded on one picture, just one picture, and that picture had to be really good. And then the other group was graded on the quantity of pictures. They had to have loads of pictures that were good, right?
Okay.
So the group that just needed one picture, they agonized for ages on this one shot, getting the lighting right, doing everything right. But then the other people, they were iterating, they were experimenting, they were doing loads of different things. And because they were just producing more, at the end of it, when they were actually graded, like overall, the group who was just doing quantity, they were better photographers at the end of it. They had a much broader understanding. So iterating is.
I know you know Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
That I think was one of the earliest videos that I had seen of him, and I put that onto the wall as kind of a motivator. His thing, he's fucking screaming at the audience. He was like, "Don't get it right, get it done."
Yes.
Right? Don't get it right, get it done. And it was almost at a point where I was like, do you know what? I need to hear that, because I agonize over the get it right. And I can't tell you how limiting that's been when you're like, I need to get it right. And then, you know, it's almost like plates spinning. It's like if I don't keep the plates spinning, you know, it's not gonna work right. If you let one drop, don't let it drop, and eventually you have to just fucking let them drop and see, you know, what you have. That was for me. I agonize over getting it right to the point that nothing goes out, and just one day I see him like, "Don't fucking get it right, get it done," and I was like, "Okay, all right. Well, this guy's a highly successful individual, and he is proud, and this is actually, I'm getting to this point now myself. He is proud to step up and go, I have failed 100 million times, 100." And I was always very bad with that. Whereas now I'm going, I'll be honest with you, the one that we're going to do, if it bombs and it's awful, yes, that won't be great, right? But I'm willing because I know how much I want to do with it
Yeah.
and how much effort I want to go into it. If it doesn't all work out, I'll be like, you know, I'm actually okay with it because I'm trying it.
Yeah.
And that's more important, you know, especially for the end of the story that we have. I'm like, if
Yeah.
that comes off, that won't be just great for me or for you. Hopefully, it'll be great for like a load of people.
Oh, be unreal. Yeah.
I hope it comes off, but I'm happy enough to fail in
Yeah.
trying to do it. You
Yeah,
know?
it's like you just have to. When Tim Ferriss started doing his podcast, he basically said, "I'm going to commit to 6 episodes, and then no matter what, I'll gain something out of that. I'll be better conversationalists at the end of it." So you kind of have to set the parameters in your head, like what does failure, what does success look like. And just before I go off on another one, the perfect is the enemy of the good. So good is actually grand. You know what I mean? If you have something that's good, perfect will prevent you from ever getting to good because you are trying to be a perfectionist.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, so I kind of made balls of that a little bit. But in regards to
lucky I'm very, very, very intelligent.
Yeah, you know, he's pulling it in.
Like,
That's how Creamy Crow does it. But the short film. So
that's a joke, by the way.
what does that look like? What does like what does success look like to you in relation to that short film that we're gonna do? Creamy Crows too.
Do you know what? The whole thing is effectively being written for that ending. I'm writing that whole thing because I would love for that payoff to be. And I realise people are watching this and going, what the hell is he talking about? But we haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So that's why. But the idea...
We need to reel this in a bit, you know what I mean?
It's basically... It's about a musician, right? So
you can
if
go
you can't
as deep
piece
as you
it
want
together...
with this, you know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's... If that ending worked out in a real setting, where I'm sure you can piece it together, if that ending worked out in a real setting, and that translated to what was on screen, and you as someone watching it could go, I feel bloody unreal. That would be...
That would be it.
That's for that one.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'd also like to think that I've written a good enough story and we've worked on something well enough where, you know, I would, because you're the main actor, right? As we speak.
Yeah.
It could all go wrong. But you're the main actor. I would take such pride if you and I walked away and we went, how good were you? I really would. I've said this to you before, that even last night, the actor in any sort of short film or feature film that I'll do, I care about your performance. I'm not just like out here for an ego trip going, look how good my shots are.
Yeah.
How great. No, because you're in the shot. And if you're crap,
Yeah.
nobody feels anything.
100%.
So there's pressure, right? But
100%.
But I would feel really proud if up until the ending, the payoff, we've actually made something where viewers look and they go, I was hooked in for that whole thing. And I love where he's coming from or where they're coming from. I think we could do it.
Yeah, so how... Because I don't have... Like, my only experience is watching movies, you know what I mean? And then the bit of comedy videos that I did. And I'm a bit of a chancer, you know what I mean? I joke and stuff, but kind of serious acting... I feel like I can put myself in a headspace, but how that comes out in my actions and behaviors and facial expressions could be a totally different thing. You know what I mean? So is there, on the short films that you've worked on, how do you help coach people into particular actions?
Well, first, I'm not a professional at this. Like, I'm not.
But that's what I mean. Yeah, but you have to do something.
But I'm not very well versed in it.
Yeah.
All I know, like, there's an instinct that I have that I'm sure I could do it, but it's for me, what I try and do is try and get you to relate to the character by giving you the story of the character, right? Now, this is probably very basic stuff, but I remember I was doing drama classes. I did them for a few months about 8 years ago, right? And it was like a very simple note, but I always thought to myself, that's simple, but it works. And I remember it was that my teacher at the time, Liam, superstar of a man, he was like, you're very in here. He goes, I need you in here, right? And it's so simple. But actually I was like, that completely makes sense. I need you in here. I don't need you up here. I need you in here. And a lot of people, when there's a camera on or they're saying words that aren't their own, you can get very in here. Now, what David Fincher would do, David Fincher would get you to do 30 takes before he started the camera. So you're going to do the scene 30 times until you're so tired of the acting that you just become very, okay, let's roll.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's roll. I'm out of it. And I think that's what music is as well. That's what I'd seen Billy Joe of Green Day say that. You're in the studio, he says it's all psychological. And you need to do it again and again and again until it comes to a point where you're out of your head and you're in the emotion.
You're just in it then.
So for me, it would be a rehearsal period. Let's try again, all of us. Let's try it again. And then out there, don't just give you one chance to get it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be an organic thing. And that might sound like highfalutin crap, but I actually care that it works.
Yeah.
You know, so I just
work
on it.
If you're going to do it, you might as well try and do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah, but do you know what? I think, am I playing footsie with you?
Hey, things are getting a bit of a weird thing. So keep going.
But I think that, look, it's a hard thing to be a good actor.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to be a good actor. I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to be like Nicolas Cage or fucking. Or who would be a good actor?
No, you're absolutely right. Nicolas Cage.
Yeah,
Nicolas Cage is a great actor, yeah. But yeah, so that'd be what I do. Just try and work on it. You know, talk about it beforehand.
Has to be somewhat believable. I hate to look at it and think, I don't.
So would I.
Yeah, so you know what I mean?
Yeah, but that also, it comes down to your prep as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if it, I don't think in anything, you can't turn up not prepared.
No.
Like, I was going to do a short film. Now, I'd written the script and I had spent a lot of time really sort of in it. You know, you can smell the room that you're in kind of thing. And I'd written this whole thing, and the character at points of real emotion, for me, that was like a palpable thing. The character's feeling a really strong emotion. And I got the actor to do it. And I think we were about 3 days away from starting. Family member died, so we weren't able to do it in the end. And I said to him, like, have you got the lines, Lauren? And he was like, oh, no, I'm just going to turn up and wing it. It's like, what are you talking about? Your one and only job is to learn your lines. You know, and I think any professionals say that. Just turn up, hit your mark, know your lines. And that's it. And he was like, no, I'm just going to wing it. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? I've nobody else but you. So anyway, I never did get to find out if he did actually care to learn them in the end. But yeah, that was.
Yeah, what's important to me is dialogue and making sure that it just flows like I think what I found is that acting it out for me anyway, my limited experience with it is so. My intuition tells me, you need to try and figure out, you need to try and embody the character. Like this character has a history, for example, you know what I mean? They have a certain position in life, as we all do. Like, you know what I mean? So if you think, okay, imagine me and the way I'm experiencing the world, but just in a totally different person or whatever, that's kind of where, if you come at it from that angle, and then what would it be like if I felt this way or that way? And we've all felt the whole spectrum potentially of human emotion, especially by the time you get to 31, you've probably had it all. But then you can kind of then what comes out of that, hopefully, and then obviously I think like one thing with the short film that you sent over to me, which is a first draft, which is great as well, because the first draft, some people don't even make it to the first draft. You know what I mean? Like what's actually, before I go anywhere, actually, because I think the concept of a first draft is very important, very interesting, because that's the way I view music. I used to think that everything was in stone. Like when I wrote words, changing them was blasphemy.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I'm just like, no, that doesn't work.
Can't get too attached.
Yeah, can't get too what is it? Stephen King said it. Kill your darlings. So he has a book called On Writing, and that's
Yeah, it's supposed to be fantastic. I've never read it.
Yeah,
It's
I only
supposed to be
listened to the
great.
audiobook, but that stuck with me. Kill your darlings, because sometimes, right, especially in music, there's a certain rhyme and structure that you have, right, and then if you change it, or the last bit's not working, but if you change it, that means you're gonna have to change the whole rhyme and structure before, and you're just thinking
The effort.
and then but I like that bit,
Yeah.
but it's not gonna work, and you just have to you have to get rid of it.
Well, there was one that I heard a long time ago, which actually took me a long time to understand this, which was to get over this. I can't let go of it. But it was that a crap first draft is worth more than a non-existent one.
Yes.
You know, and that for me, when I gave that to you there yesterday, I was like, this isn't the finished product, but it's going. The idea is that the scene ideas are on the page. We know where we're going from place to place.
Yeah.
Dialogue, placement in the scene, that can all change. The idea of the scene is there. And on the second draft, that's where we'll fix that.
Yeah.
But it was who McDonough, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
Fantastic movie. I think it was is it Martin McDonough? And he was asked about his writing style or process. And he was asked, like, so when you do a first draft, do you just take what's good and then completely write a second one? And he was like, no. I'll just go back to the previous scene, edit that a little bit, move on to the next scene. I hadn't heard anyone do that before. I thought it had to be like a complete boom.
Yeah.
Rewrite page 1. What did I like from the first draft? Start it all again. He was like, no, I don't do that. I just edit the bit beforehand to what I actually liked and then just carry on.
Yeah.
So everyone has their own process. And I think that's something with writing, with filmmaking, with music, with anything. Especially nowadays. There are so many ways everyone tells you to do anything that you're like, if I do any one of those, it'll likely be the wrong one, which is funny because Sean, very valuable channel, really valuable channel.
Paddy Jobsman.
But I listen to him and I go, that's great stuff. I can use all of that. But I still go, why is his more correct than the 100 other people out there? And you can get into a point then of you're frozen and you don't know which way to go because so much information. And in the end, especially with the writing now, I just go, just write your thing.
Yeah.
And if you're happy with it, then fuck it, that's fine. So.
Yeah, and it's a very hard place, I think, to get to. For me, as I
hold that thought. Do you want the light on?
Oh, stick it on there.
Just thinking, yeah, because
the shot doesn't look too dark.
I mean, you're just disappearing.
Yeah, it was a little bit dark, but I liked it. I know what I mean. It's a dynamic set. You know what I mean?
Do you want to back off?
No. It's perfect.
All right, go on. Carry on with your thought there.
What I was saying was something very coherent and
deep,
and brilliant and deep. What was I saying? Something about.
I was saying about the writing process.
Oh, the writing process. So get to that place where you can create a first draft and not have to make it super perfect, because the first, cause as you're saying there, so a first draft, especially when you're writing a script, what it looks like, it's just the general idea. The general idea has to kind of, if that's there, then we have something to work on. You know what I mean? But before we have to get to that point first. But then if you're like, people ask me to give feedback on different things sometimes, and one time I got a piece of writing, and instead of it was like a college assignment, but instead of kind of just giving an overall feedback, I get real nitty gritty. I get super nitty gritty. So I'm like looking at the sentence and I'm like, how can we reword that sentence? I focus too, and because with songwriting, right?
I got an 8-minute voice note last night.
Yeah.
8 minutes of. I was like,
but that's so just on feedback. The way I see feedback, right, is that if I, let's say you're giving me feedback, right?
Yeah.
I want you to say like whatever it is that is really true to what you're saying, and then I can either do with that something or not.
Yeah, I
but
agree with you.
like you don't have to think, like when I give someone feedback, I don't think they have to listen to me. You know what I mean? The point is that they just have more perspective on the thing. But at the end of the day, if you're giving feedback or receiving feedback, the most important part is whoever is responsible for creating the initial piece of work that's getting feedback on. They are driving. You know what I mean? And you have to kind of, if you understand that, because sometimes feedback can come across sharp. You know, I've given all sorts of like variations of feedback. The feedback I gave you wasn't sharp, and I thought at all. Actually, it was just kind of like just general musings. You know what I mean? But when I have to get harsher, or when it's, because especially with songwriting, it can be very personal because it's lyrics, and people sometimes don't like changing lyrics and changing structure of songs, or hearing that their song is too long. Because I don't want to hear that. But then when I hear it, I go, no, I think it's grand. But then I'll sit with it and I'll be thinking, maybe it is too long. But how can I can't make it short, it's impossible. And then I just think, actually I can. Maybe I can. And then
get out of the echo chamber a bit.
Yeah. So feedback is good because we're only finite beings with finite resources and a particular viewpoint. But at the end of the day, it's up to the person. Like you, if you give feedback to somebody, you have no skin in the game. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't think that person has to listen to you in any way.
But that's perspective. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people, you could also come from the side of it that you've asked my opinion. You've done nothing with it. Why did you ask me? And there will be those people out there as well. Like,
but you have to.
I get what you're. Obviously, I know
it's
what
when
you're
you
saying,
do it, when you do it enough times, and then when you're on the. You have to be on, if you're on both ends, you understand, because when people give me feedback, like a lot of it I won't listen, or I won't implement, but some of it I will. You know what I mean? Some of it will resonate and some of it will stick, and that's the nature of feedback in a way. You know what I mean? It's because at the end of the day, you're driving the ship, so you have to see if there's something there that they're saying. Then it's like, it's like that. It's not that I'm anti-feedback. I love feedback, actually. I love taking people's ideas and using them to better my own stuff. Like I've had songs where I've had even the name of the podcast. Monksy came up with that name, and I just
yours.
Yeah, the Basil Breen Boombox.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yeah,
Right. I'd seen something about that the other day.
He came up with the name, and as soon as he said it, I start going, and he was just messing saying it in a chat, and I just go, oh my God, that's the name. Yes, because I struggled so hard with the name. And then, Keith Eastwood's given me lyric advice that I still said, this is absolutely genius. I'm taking that in. And then sometimes I'll just say, I hear you. I appreciate what you're saying. I don't see it, but like I appreciate it. And then when you ask me feedback, I'm gonna go hard on it, as hard as I can, because that's the point. But at the end of the day, it's take it or leave it. It's take it or leave it, and that's actually grand. Do you know what I mean? But that's how, I think I've built that perspective of just by being on both sides of it. You know what I mean? Because I know what it's like to have to say to somebody, I'm not, or not follow, not like fall into, not listen to them fully. You know what I mean? And it's fine. It's actually just fine. That's the way you have to think of it, though. You know what I mean?
I got one for you.
Oh, here we go.
How big is it? No, I'm joking. How many of these podcasts have you done now? Across from somebody.
Across from somebody.
Somebody different, because we've done about 4 now.
So we've done So there's you, I did Sean, Kyle, Killian, Janelle, and Monksy. So 6 people in total.
And there's Tim Ferriss.
I've done it. I can stop now.
As soon as you said that, I was like, okay.
I can quit.
What differences do you notice? In fact, do you know that? One, what difference do you notice in you doing them after you've had that now? And what difference does it make to you? Like, how much do you actually use or think about in your day-to-day?
So, in terms of doing the podcast, I've just gotten a lot more comfortable, but I'm comfortable mainly because, you know, I've been doing it with people that I kind of know, I think. I'm hoping that comfort is going to translate when I start venturing. And this is a part that I'm struggling with now because, you know, I wanna start venturing out and getting people on that I don't really know or I don't have any connection with, and how am I going to react to
Yeah.
that dynamic?
Yeah.
So that's like the next there's a bit of growth for me, right? So, but I think overall I've gotten more comfortable, less in my own head, but still there. You know what I mean? I'm not as worried about what I'm going to say, and I'm not even worried about saying that I'm not going to say something. If that makes sense. So if I'm not, I don't care if there's something that comes into my head. I'll just say I don't want to talk about that actually because maybe I'm worried about implications or maybe there's stuff, and I don't have to get into it. But what you're seeing is like because I used to think I have to say everything, but I'm just being honest with you, and that's the most important thing. Honesty is the most important thing to me on this podcast, and just giving it. What you see is what you get in a way. So
But
that's
you
what I'm
don't
hoping
need
for.
everything.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah,
you will
yeah.
maybe you'll
Yeah,
get
yeah.
eventually when I've come to terms or figured out ways of describing things. Mainly it's like I'd hate, you know what I mean? It's like saying the wrong thing. You know what I mean? When you haven't really developed the idea or whatever.
The
So
proddy thing, like.
yeah, but that was a little thing. But so that's what I've kind of gained is just more comfort and just more familiarity with the space, and hopefully better at articulating ideas and trying to be more cognizant of the viewer and the listener, because for example when you were saying up here and here, when someone's listening, they don't realize you're pointing to your head or pointing to your chest. You know what I mean? So I only realized it in that second. I was like, your head. I better mention head. Because I was just listening to you, you know what I mean? But a part of me also has to think, like Joe Rogan does this really well. He'll just interject and say, oh, what he's doing with his hands, or he's doing something here, whatever.
Yeah.
So trying to, you know, do that, but in a less stressful way. So before, I think my interview with Killian, I was real nervous in that one. I don't know if maybe it didn't come across. There's parts where I could point out where you very clearly see a difference in pitch and things, whatever.
I actually, honestly, I thought that was just you going to town there. Like, to be honest,
I was nervous at the start of that one.
Yeah.
But that's because I was trying to fit it into a particular box, and then so it's all about getting into flow, not worrying too much, letting the conversation go, because the conversation takes care of itself. And you don't really have to worry about it. I do prepare now. I try to formulate. So I have a cheat sheet here that I haven't really used, but it's good to just formulate my ideas on, you know, general concepts of podcasts, and then I'll have a sheet here where I'll be like, okay, go over have some general jumping off points that we can get into that I find interesting or that I want to find out more about. So a bit of more prep.
Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the prep, actually.
No.
I think you can kind of make the mistake of thinking that, and Joe Rogan is the guy for that. He's the biggest going, right? But you can make the mistake of thinking that you do need to be shooting from the hip the whole time. You don't. I kind of like the prep. I mean, I've been listening to Opinions Matter. Do you know this one?
No.
Adrian and Jeremy.
No.
Do you remember they used to be on FM 104, Adrian and Jeremy?
Yeah.
Right. You probably don't, do you?
No, I do. Adrian Kennedy.
Adrian Kennedy, yeah. That's funny. I actually was the one that forgot his surname there for a second. But I've been listening to that Opinions Matter podcast, which is just, it's fucking chaos, it is. But it's but even they come out with the topic, and the whole show revolves around this one topic. That's prep. You don't need to come out and necessarily be like, oh my God, I'm so fucking overwhelmed. I don't even know where we're going to go. You don't need to. So actually, I want to take a look at the cheat sheet at some stage, actually, because I want to see what's down here, right? But, you know, maybe in a while. But,
so the point of prep is that, okay, because what's the point if I'm gonna have a conversation with somebody, I'm gonna record it. I want to try and make it as valuable as I possibly can for you, for me, and for potentially people listening. But mainly it's for us too, because I want to get. If I can think, how can I get this person to put their best foot forward and get them to speak? Then when they listen back to it, like I feel when I listen back to myself, and this is the other part of it, is that I'm looking at myself in. So one thing was the guess, but then how has it changed my thinking and stuff? I'm analyzing myself at such a deeper level than I thought I was doing before, because I'm listening back to myself and I'm hearing myself speak and I'm seeing myself in a totally different perspective now. At such, and then I'm thinking about my speech, and then even I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much from other people. Like, for example, in the Kyle podcast, I so he has a child with autism, and I don't want to get this wrong, but I think it's non-verbal autism. So it's like pretty far on the spectrum, let's say. Like maybe that's how you describe it. But when I was asking him when did he notice that his kid was potentially autistic, I said, when did you notice something was wrong? And then he said, well, first you don't look at it as something wrong. And then I just thought, oh yeah. Yeah. And then I
Oh,
realized,
sorry. For you, he's saying you don't look at it as something wrong.
oh no, he's like, first of all, you shouldn't see it.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
He wasn't,
Sorry, yeah,
he
I
wasn't.
got you.
He was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of saying, it's a general. It's like something he's embodied.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And then I just realized, well, I was looking at this from that lens of that was something that like that's wrong or whatever. And then once we start getting into it, then and then start realizing his perspective really opened my eyes to just like, and I have this in my heart, but it didn't click obviously as fully as after that podcast, that there's just different configurations of human. You know what I mean? There's just all random, not even autistic. There's no labels really. It's just different configurations of human, and there's no good way. There's no bad way.
There's just what you're comfortable with.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
exactly. It's just what you're comfortable
Yeah.
with, and it's just whatever is. You know what I mean? And then when I was thinking back to that, and I had the chance to edit that bit out, but I wanted to leave it in because I thought that was the most powerful moment I had for me personally in terms of personal growth in the podcast. Just
Now, can I ask?
yeah.
Was it that powerful in the moment, or is it that powerful on listening back?
Oh no, it was powerful in the moment because when we came back, it cut, and then it was a conversation that led after that where we started getting deeper. I was getting really excited, and I learned so much more about being a barber and realizing that it's much more of a social activity, really. And then just in general, I like mostly like when I was just going through my just trying to be more like listening back and hearing me talk about my problems of discipline has made me just rethink. Okay, I need to be more disciplined. And what am I taking that word for granted? You know what I mean? What does it mean to actually be disciplined? What's it really mean? And you know, am I disciplined in certain respects and regards? And what would it look like if I was really disciplined? And so,
what does that look like?
well, it looks like that you don't just give in to every sort of whim of your own desire. So, I want a chocolate cake now. You don't just say, okay, you can have a chocolate cake. Or you wake up, you're a bit late and you want to go get a coffee before you start writing. It's like, no, make tea and start writing. Like, you're fine. You know what I mean? You don't run away from the thing. So your brain, it's not listening to the part of your brain that wants to do what's comfortable. And instead realize you've set out these goals and tasks and ambitions that should take precedence, but you're letting the sort of the whim of your own sort of current experience now take over from that. So trying to be stronger, and I'm not there yet on some things. You know what I mean? Like for example, I smoked a little bit of weed on the weekend, and now like I was now I've
Sake.
but I hadn't smoked in ages, and now and I smoked it with tobacco, so that's how it sneaks back in. You know what I mean? And now my brain is thinking, oh, I'd love to get a fucking bit of tobacco, bit of weed there, and I'm nearly tricking myself into doing it. You know what I mean?
But do you not want it?
Well, it's bad for my throat, and I'm trying to focus. Like, it doesn't align with my goals of trying to be a good singer, for example. Like, if I damage my throat, then I won't be able to sing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
but
come
yeah,
on.
so I'm
There's
sacrificing.
plenty of singers out there who smoke a ton and
Yeah, but not it's not the most optimized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know. And then also, if I smoke it too late, it messes my sleep and messes up my other stuff. So, but it does help with creativity. It does help with laughter and everything else. But
You
it's
see,
just
I heard Jordan Peterson say that the other day, which kind of blew my mind actually. What would you say was the one thing that most, if not all of us, strive for in life? At the end of the day, when all is said and done, what would you like to say?
so. I think.
And I mean, I'm aware that probably
I think
probably a hard question to answer, but
we well, just from my own perspective and what I'm trying to, if I look at myself and look at my thought patterns, even this might sound weird, but because I'm doing the podcast now, let's say if something ever happened to me, let's say I died tomorrow, the feeling of I'll have touch. No, I had this talk with Janelle, right? You don't have to touch wood; you can touch anything, right? But at least my worry would be that like my family and people that love me, they won't get that. I'll be gone to them. But through music and through this podcast, I could potentially still be there for them in a weird way.
that's
you know
a
what I mean?
human thing,
So-
isn't it? You want to live on beyond your
So
death,
that's what it is. So
basically.
it's like the fight. It's the ultimate survival. The ultimate survival is a subconscious want to kind of not die. You know what I mean? So that's what I think is a massive driver, especially for men and ambitious men. Like, you know, you listen to Kanye West, he'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to be the greatest of all time." And then it doesn't really matter because in a million years, like, let's say I was on thinking this the other day with Chuck, that right. So we've lived like imagine 6,000 years ago, right? All that history. We've loads of history books, loads of philosophy books, all about that period. What happens in a million years when there's just too much information? Like, some of that information, we're just going to say that's not important anymore. That's
The
like
timeline just moves
yeah,
more recent than recent.
it's got a
than
more and more
recent.
recent.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
one's going
yeah.
to care about this stuff. Like, and then no one's going to when they like. So this is that. There's no way of it's such an ephemeral and sort of transitory thing is life and our with all our pursuits in it. You know what I mean? We can have an impact potentially up to a short period after we die. But the most important impact, I think, is what you do to people, as in, you know, and I think that's a way to live on as well, like through how you affected people and helped them think, and how, because people have helped you think a certain way and helped you. That's what I realised about this podcast, right? And I'll come back and we'll get the real answer from Jordan Peterson right after this message.
No.
But,
Go on. Yeah.
With the podcast, what I've realised now, and with music, is that I was listening to this song, right? 17 Going Under. Have you heard it? Sam. Apparently, it's very popular on the radio. It's one of the best songs I think ever written. Right? It touches on so many truisms of being a human. It's so relatable on so many levels. And it has nostalgia and it has a beautiful melody, and it's just, I couldn't believe. I was like, it's changed now how I'm thinking about even songwriting. But that affected me so deeply, and then I'd be thinking, Jesus, imagine I can create more moments, like not to that extent maybe, but moments of joy and awe, and then moments of understanding and revelation, like the way other people have done for me, because we're all just conduits for whatever we have currently, our current knowledge base and our current attributes, whatever, that we can pass on in the moment, and through speech and through podcasts and music. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to try. That's a great thing to strive for me, I think, personally.
Well, that was what Jordan Peterson was saying. That, in fact, for me, it was always happiness. If there's one thing that I would have said that nearly all of us are striving for, it's just to be happy, right? You make decisions that you're happy. At the end of it all, you go, I'm happy. And I would say that to people all the time. Say they might be critical of decisions that, you know, other people make. And you go, well, do you think they're happy? And you go, well, they probably are. Well, then isn't that the main thing? And if people are critical of decisions that I make, I'd go, but in what you do, are you happy? And they go, yeah. Well, I can't ask for anything more for you. Like, if you're happy in what you're doing, I can't ask for more for you. But then Jordan Peterson mentions you strive to be the best you. And if happiness is a byproduct of that, then so be it. And I thought to myself, I listened to that and I went, how much do I really want to be the best me versus being happy? And I want to be a better me, but I don't want to be so good that I lose out on my happiness to do it. So it's just interesting. What's the goal? And yours is an interesting one, but
that's what it comes down to. That's what discipline will give you. If you're, as you're pursuing to be better in different domains, your desire to not just be happy but just to be content and comfortable will override your goals and desire to be better. You know what I mean? And then you just have to strengthen their muscles. You know what I mean? Like through. But then sometimes, obviously, you need a break as well. You need to be not so hard on yourself. So I think there's a balance.
to have a joint on the
And
weekend.
then, yeah, exactly, yeah. And but as long as it doesn't, see what happens if it creeps in and starts affecting other things, then you have to look at it again and say, is this healthy?
Get a grip of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but it's okay. I think all we can do, right, is all we can do is spend our time doing something, right? Like at the end of the day, we have a number of days. Do you ever see this? There's this calendar. It's not a calendar, but it's like a poster, and it has every day of your life up until you're 90, right? So it has 90 years worth of
I
days.
did see something like this, yeah.
And so if you like so every week is like a little chunk of this thing, and you can just mark it off, and then you're just saying, Jesus.
You realise how little's left of it.
Yeah, and you've all these little marbles, and they're all just kind of going away. So what's the best way to kind of measure what you could consider a good life? Well, it's like if you can spend, all you're going to do is spend your time doing something. So if you can be happy with what that time was spent on, then that's all you can really ask for anyway. You know what I mean? And then even if you, I don't think there's any point in like I don't think there's really any sort of real point to life. You know what I mean? I think it exists for its own sake. You know what I mean? It's not like there's something that we need to do because if that was the case, then there's so many people in dire situations that would never even be able to do anything remotely that certain people in more privileged societies would be able to do.
That give value.
Exactly. So
yeah.
it's like so yeah, the measuring stick is whatever you measure that, basically.
You see, that was actually an area of thinking that I was in over like the last number of months. Up until last year, I actually had a conversation with my cousin about the idea of nihilism, right? Which I never knew what that actually was. I knew the word, but I always thought that was people walking around in leather jackets and fucking mohawks and stuff. They're nihilistic people. That's a punk.
Yeah.
But I actually, because I was feeling that, I was like, well, what is the point of most things? Why do we do them? And once you start getting into that, very fucking difficult to start finding stuff that's really valuable. That's when you need to really start going into yourself and going, well, I find very little value in what the people around me tell me I have to do. Why? Because you're doing what they told you to do and what they told them to do. And that's happened over God knows how many thousands of years now, until it's at a point where you don't question it anymore. You do your 40-hour-a-week job, you pay your bills, you hunt for the family, the house. And that is the idea of a really great life. And I'm not dismissing anyone who does that. But for me, I go, if there's not more than this, what is the point? And I just felt there for quite a while. And my cousin was actually the one, in a very brief conversation, he went, I went through that period. But you do get over it. You start finding things that are worthwhile. And I think for me, it's an insistence that I actually need to start finding things that are worthwhile. Because, without getting too downsome about it, like, I can get my depressive side. I can get my anxious side. And you can start going off on one day and going, what is the point in what I'm doing? I get up in the morning, I go to work. Why am I going to work? And if you don't really have a purpose to that, what's the point in much of what we're doing? You
No,
know, so I
100%.
look at what you're doing there, and I go, "That's a man who's got purpose. He's got a purpose. Even if he wasn't here tomorrow, he knows the purpose for what he's doing."
But so it's about so sometimes we talked about this before that you have to eat shit sometimes, but it's how you frame. So like, let's say you're doing a job, and you know you're doing your 40 hours, and then you're resentful then because you're like, I don't, and this happens to me. It happened to me. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. What am I doing with this? Like, this is a complete waste of time. But then if you're able to so this is where discipline comes in. Like, if you can block, if you can schedule time that you will protect. Like Jordan Peterson said, he when he was in Harvard, he was trying to write this book. He would make a block of 3 hours every day, right? And maybe none of us have that like luxury. Maybe whatever time it is, he'd protect that time no matter what. He'd say, "No, I'm not doing that thing. I have this. I blocked this time off, so I can't do that other thing." And his family had to deal with it. Everyone's had to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
And like, maybe
Fuck off and leave me alone.
yeah, exactly. So there's ways of like you can if it's all about blockifying your time. People have done amazing things. People have written books on the way to work on the London Underground. Do you know what I mean? They've done things in little increments of time that they've accumulated over years or whatever. You know what I mean? So it's not, you just have to find it in you to do the thing. So deep work is where you have like multiple hours to do it. You know what I mean? And you can really get into it. But you can have micro work as well. And if you can create, like for music, like writing songs is basically like a Sudoku puzzle. Once you get the melodies up, because you write a sentence, then you have to make a sentence that rhymes with that next one in a particular way, whatever way you set it up, and it has to make sense with it. So it's a puzzle. It's like a crossword puzzle, basically. So if you can get to that place with other things where you I think Hemingway did this thing. I don't even know who the fuck he is. You know what I mean? That's it.
Ernest Hemingway.
I know who he is. He like, he's a writer, but I don't know. You know what I mean? This is what
No,
I know.
I mean, come here to me. I'm not like fucking.
but
You don't
this-
know Ernest
Yeah,
Hemingway.
yeah.
Man. Come on.
But this is what I know about him, and this is the other thing, apparently. And I don't even know if it was him. So do your little fact check there, you little internet people. But he would not finish work. He would always, and I think he drank heavily as well.
He did. And he's quite the ladies man.
Yeah. Okay. Jesus.
Yeah.
Something I want to be. But the point I was trying to make is that so he would leave his work unfinished. So he wouldn't finish it that night. So then he'd have
something the following day.
So you need something.
Start to doing that.
Yes, that's.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Because that starting is the hardest bit. Starting is like, oh Jesus, I have to go to that blank page and all right, I'm gonna go get a call, I'm gonna do this. So then you
That's
do
what Tarantino says. Tarantino's like, I was put on this earth to face the blank page, he says.
Oh
Whereas,
my God.
whereas any of the rest of us go, oh, fuck me, that's a lot of white, isn't it? Like you have to fill all that. But I was put on this page on this earth to face that page. But yeah, I have started doing that. I'll get to a point in an evening with something, and then I go, that's for tomorrow. That's for tomorrow. I'm going to leave the rest now till tomorrow, and then we'll carry on from there.
Exactly. And if you can
know?
keep that going, then that'll pull you in because it's like a gentler onboarding, you know what I mean? But then eventually with stuff, if you keep doing things enough, the onboarding, it's just, if you can get to that place where, because with writing in particular, it's like, if you didn't care about writing really bad, like if you just read, like, the blue chair was blue, right? It's a crap sentence, right?
It's true, though.
But it's still something. And then you'll say, it wasn't that blue. Like, it was actually a shade of blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, who cares about the chair? And if you just keep writing, you'll eventually get somewhere. You know what I mean?
I like even where you went with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
So
you can see it's already
so
like...
you can, you just have to, if you can pull yourself on, that onboarding of just putting pen or virtual pen to paper.
Would you mind if I use the ladies?
Oh, please, go ahead.
Please, thank you so much.
Is it called the ladies, though?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Well, we'll be right back after these messages.
I'll be back. Yeah. I was gonna
And welcome back again. Now
back.
go.
I hope those commercials weren't too long for you.
Yeah. I was actually thinking, should I just improv stuff here or try to go off on one, but I didn't have the courage. So I could have just done it and cut it. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, you could have.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I was gonna ask you, the more you do your podcast, do you feel like doing more? Do you feel energized to do more the more you do, or is it still something, Or is it something where you're like, I'm
Wh-
trying to...
when I finished uploading it and doing the little bit of like putting the audio and the video together, doing the timestamps, and I have it released, I feel good about it. But when I'm doing all that stuff, I'm
Isn't
just
it?
thinking, oh man, what have I
Why?
done?
Somebody
What have
else
I
host it.
done? Yeah, like it's just taken. It just takes a bit of time to chop the 20-minute bit for the different social media pages because they don't. There's limits on Instagram and all this stuff, and then uploading it to the actual podcast repository or whatever. So there's just a bit of work that goes in.
How long's your editing process?
It's the things that take time. So when I put the videos together, I have to line up the audio with the video. So sometimes I have to like. There's a weird thing that happens where if you're recording audio and then recording video, that they can become out of sync in a weird way where you have to change the speed of the audio to
You
fit
need
it.
a clap in.
Yeah, you can do the clap in, but now I've just trained my ear. You can see the inflections, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But you can actually just hear it. If you just have to change it tiny little bits at a time. Anyway, it's even with the clap. I did the clap before. It's a little bit of a process, right?
Okay.
Then to export that, it just takes ages. So then I'm waiting for that, and then sometimes it fails because the memory on my computer, and then I have to do it again, and then I have to minimize it. I make it smaller then. And then I'll chop a bit. Then I'll do this thing where I'll put a banner at the bottom now, where it tells people that the whole video's on YouTube, and this is just a short video.
Okay.
So that's one other thing, and then uploading it to like Facebook, Instagram, the Podbean, because my internet's real slow, so it takes ages. Then just putting the titles into each. It just takes all that stuff, man. Takes time. It does.
How much time?
I don't know. I'll put a
Because
timer next
like
time.
even no, because I know myself even doing now my editing off of a video that was like an hour long could be 6-7 hours.
Oh, but that's if you're editing.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah.
like long.
Yeah.
You're doing that, and I'm like,
That'd
do
be
I need to
insane.
do all this?
No.
Because I tell you why. Because I did a podcast with one of my mates, and it was there's 3 of us, but I wanted it to be rough and ready. We turn it up, we do it, fuck the rest.
Yeah.
Right, just get it out there. And then left in his hands, it started being edited a small bit. Right? And I was like, what do you edit? We had a rail over. I was like, what are you editing? And don't edit, just leave it be, man. And one day he did it, and I was like, how long was it? He was like, I was editing for 7 hours. I was like, what? Why? But the sound quality, which I never said to him, but the sound quality was actually far better, right? And then once I recorded one and I listened back to a few minutes of it just raw, I was like, I can't use that like that. And then after 7 hours,
What was
I
wrong
like,
with it? Just the flow or the actual
yeah,
sound?
I mean, you're editing the sound. You're trying to make the sound a bit, clearer, less pauses, less. It got down to like minute stuff.
That's what fucks
You're
you up,
editing. You're editing out too many likes, or you're trying to cut out a ramble, or
Yeah.
and you're listening
That's what you
through
have.
the
Yeah,
whole
you just
thing.
have to let go.
Yeah, so that was why I was like, just let it be its own thing, and eventually, whatever audience it gets will love what it is. But no, once I sat down to do an edit, I was like, that's a long time. And then I realized that doing the podcast, which is why I ask you, the more you do you feel like let's do another one? Because I had done maybe 5, but I realized the amount of time going into each one was like, I could be writing
Yeah.
and I'm focused on podcasting, and I don't necessarily see myself as a future podcast host or a radio host. So why am I doing it so much?
But so in my motivations, like a few people have said, "Oh, geez, like hope it works." Hope
Obviously, a bit of crack
yeah,
counts.
but
Do you know
hopefully
what I
it
mean?
works out. Like the way I think people are viewing why people do anything is that they think that they're trying to fucking be the next Joe Rogan or be the next thing, but surely we can still do, like, I think we don't do enough things just because we have an interest in them or we enjoy them or we think there needs to be a payoff. There's a massive payoff, right, in doing this podcast, in just, I've espoused every possible reason, but even the reason I just said, personal development for me, and chance, like imagine it down the line, right? We're like 40, 50, let's go further, 60, right?
It's only around the corner. Like,
Somewhere far away, where we have these podcasts, man, and we know that we did these podcasts, and like I'll see you and you'll see me, and we'll say, remember that podcast, and we'll have that, and I'll have a connection with loads of hopefully different people, and not just a connection. I've given them something that they have as well, that they have. So it's like I'm giving a moment. We're having a moment together, but we get to enjoy this artifact, both of us. You know what I mean? And I think that's really cool because some people they don't have all the equipment to do all this shit. They don't have the fucking computer. They don't have a bit of knowledge about audio processing or whatever. And I do. So then that's it's not like, I'm not saying it's a fucking selfless thing, but a part of me thinks that's a beautiful thing to be able to do, to get people on that might have never ever been asked to do a podcast or even thought about doing a podcast, to do the podcast. Yeah. And I think that's so cool. And I want to get more people. I'd love to get more people on. If I can build up the courage to start a venture. I have a list of guests.
Just do it.
Yeah. What did you do when you were asking people?
Please come and talk to me. No, to be honest, like I did it with the lads, right? It was a very different one. I did it with the two of them. But at the time that I was doing it with them, it's a very different dynamic. There's three of you. But I was also much more rough and ready. So I had done it with them. And then afterwards, when I was going to ask people, I just told them what I told you, which is that I have this idea and I want to share it with people, and I want to speak to creators, talented people, etc. Would you come on? And nearly always it was a yes, But I just realised that it was a very different kind of thing. As I said it to you before, it's a very different kind of thing when you're having to speak to somebody about what you've brought them on for, which might be music.
Yeah.
And you're not necessarily comfortable then with just going off on one. But like you've got a cheat sheet there.
Yeah.
That helps. I'd imagine that would help a lot.
So yeah, the top part is just basically general questions on what you could ask about, like whatever the topic is. So you're a film director. It's like, why should people care about short films? What makes a good short film director? What makes a bad short film director? What makes a bad actor? What makes a bad writer? So these are just general, like, okay, how do we get deeper? They're just kind of points, and then I don't know, the other stuff is just probably like, I don't know, forever.
Go on.
All right, so this is one. We've kind of touched on mortality. All right, one question. This is actually a good one, actually. What if you had, right, one question for God or one question for the aliens, whoever you might choose, right? They have the answer to whatever you want to know. What would you want to know?
Wow. Anything.
Anything. Literally anything. They have the answer, man. They know why they start calling you a Krogo cop or whatever.
Free mats. Geez, who really built the pyramids?
Ah, that's a great one.
Who really built the pyramids?
That would be amazing, man.
And then you can obviously.
And if you're asking the aliens, they're just going to say, it was
us. Yeah, it was us. You're winking at each other going, when we tell them. Probably that one. It'd be something like that. Like, is there an older civilization that we haven't discovered yet?
Yes.
Like stuff like that. Like Mesopotamia is the oldest. Is there anything that's like way older? And they'd go, yeah, and you're getting very near it. You're getting very near it. You're not there, but you're nearly there. It's like, oh, you little tease. Where is it? Tell me where it is.
Well, we're always discovering older stuff, and it's amazing, especially with things like LiDAR, where we're using kind of a laser radar and stuff. Yeah,
I watched a documentary on them doing that through the jungles of Central and South America, where they're literally walking through and they're discovering cities which we thought never existed, because how could they? This is a forest. But now they're discovering 50,000 buildings in the jungle. So yeah, I think it's fascinating.
Oh, it's
stuff.
interesting. That's the Graham Hancock. You know him, don't you?
I have one of his books.
Oh yeah. My
Yeah,
brother
yeah.
bought all of them, but I don't think he's gotten through them all. They make great things to put stuff on. Yeah.
You look smart as hell.
Yeah.
Like when you set up the camera and in the background it's just like a stream of
Oh,
books.
stop! Yeah, it well, I've read a few of them that are in my window thing, but or my what would I say window thing?
Your window.
Yeah, in my window. I have them just at my thing, but I've nowhere else to put them. But if you looked up, you're like, "Jeez, that's a lot of books." But like, jeez, I don't know.
Do you know there's something like it's you know when you're watching an interview or something and you see someone who has 10 rows of a bookshelf all across the back wall packed with books. I envy that so much. For some reason, I'm always like, I have to do that. And I go, have they read all those books? And how could they read it? And I go, I have to do that one day. I just have to make a wall of books so that I can at least pop my camera there and be like,
That'd be hilarious.
oh, this? Yeah, I'd love to do that. But give me one more. Give me one.
Okay.
And in fact, before you do, what's yours?
Oh well, I'd have to ask. I don't know I'd have to frame the question to make sure that I get the right answer.
Oh, sounds like someone who's thought about this.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, what would you want? What is the most important thing to know? And for me, it is what is reality? Like, what is this thing that we're living? Like, what is it in its fundamental essence? And please tell me what is this thing that we call reality or existence, and what are the mechanics and how does it work?
And do you know what they'd say, whoever it was you're asking? They come back to you and they go, it's an awful lot simpler than you think it is.
Yeah, probably.
They probably come back and go, it's an awful lot simpler. We noticed you down there making an awful lot of it, but actually it's an awful lot simpler than you think it is. And how underwhelmed would you be like if they went, yeah, it's a lot simpler, you'd be like, what?
Well, I'm listening to this podcast on Lex Friedman, Donald Hoffman. I've listened to a few of his podcasts before, but he has this book called that I haven't read, but I know the general gist from listening to him. It's called The Case Against Reality. So, there's this idea that space-time is fundamental. So, like Einstein's relativity and the story of our current understanding of reality, it kind of embedded in this idea of space-time. Like space and time are kind of a one fabric kind of deal, and they both interact and operate with each other like, as one entity. But he's saying that that's basically that paradigm is over now really, and there's this kind of new paradigm of sort of consciousness as fundamental. So I don't know if you've ever heard of panpsychism. So it's kind of similar. So panpsychists would say it's actually a Greek kind of I think it's I'm gonna have to fact check myself here, but I think panpsychism it predates sort of science even, and people thought that, like, let's say around the like ancient philosophy times, like of the Platos and all, right, they used to think that everything is conscious or whatever. But this is different. I'm not really sure who was responsible for this. I think actually one of them lads, Socrates, Plato, one of them, they were panpsychists. Maybe he was Pythagoras, who fucking knows? But they believed that everything was conscious, right? And we're conscious at a maybe a higher level, but everything is actually made of consciousness in a way. So that's what a panpsychist would think.
Is that like a Buddhist thing?
Kind of. Buddhism, I think, would say that we're all the same conscious. Maybe we're the Atman. Would be the self, like when they meditate, the behind the viewer, and that is what's fundamental. So kind of similar. Panpsychism is like, instead of space time, imagine consciousness was consciousness. What would you pronounce that word? That was the fabric of everything, and that was actually fundamental. And the reality that we see, right, that we've evolved as humans, would have only selected slices of reality that would aid our survival. So we are just adaptive machines that have adapted for this procreation of our genes. So we're actually hiding a lot of what is actually really there. Not in some, like, I can't see this spectrum of light kind of way, but just the actual fundamental mechanics of reality. We didn't evolve to see that. Like, we evolved to survive in that reality, but we didn't survive to see it perfectly. You know what I mean? Because you don't need to see it perfectly or understand it perfectly. And like the sort of data structures that our head and our brain uses, they're like projections. So imagine a user interface. So we're like a user interface that interfaces with reality in some weird way, but the user interface is hiding the underlying mechanics and data structures that he's describing this new paradigm potentially that I'm liking, and it's actually colliding with a lot of stuff with the kind of Eastern philosophies on wholeness and oneness in a way. But anyway, you go ahead.
I'm. Do you know what? I'm interested in that, but I'm not. Right. So I'm probably the wrong person to actually have that conversation with. Right. Monks,
Probably
Dean
not
Monks.
simpler.
No, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Honestly. So Dean Monks, probably more so in that sort of bag. And it's not me, because I always think to myself, there's definitely a value to a higher level of thinking, right? You sound like a dope for saying this, but I just think
I didn't sound like a dope.
what? No, me.
No, but I mean, we're gonna sound like dope to somebody.
Right? Yeah, but someone comes out with this really out there idea. Like, what about this idea that we're actually all elephants?
Yeah.
But it's just hidden in here so deep that we don't even, like, you can never fully discover that to be true or false, right? And it's just that the idea, while always somebody's new idea develops into something, I go, at what point does your really out there idea not help? Do you know, it just confuses matters more. Because I swear to God, I do genuinely believe we are in a really confused time at the minute. Really confused. I don't think we are able to say for certain now, because we don't trust everything. I don't think we're able to say for certain that is a couch. I am pointing to a couch. I think somebody would go, it's not a couch. And they go, and then they come out with these philosophies and ideas, and you go, why isn't that as basic as it's just a couch? And for me, maybe it's me, I'm just trying to keep in a comfort zone here. But I think genuinely, at what point do you go, okay, lads, can you settle down a minute, please? Like, where are you even going with half of this stuff? You know?
There's a what you're saying, you're describing sort of, it seems like complexity for complexity's sake in a way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that can be, yeah, if it's not going to kind of
Well put.
Your man Hoffman though, just to kind of he's like a real deep into the scientific method. So like imagine Einstein, when he discovered relativity, he was describing the interaction of light and space and gravity, but there was no real way to prove it. And then the first kind of things that started to prove it was when they sent an atomic clock into orbit, and it orbited the Earth a few times and came back. The atomic clock was a little bit, could be slower. I forget what way it goes. But basically, as you move quicker through space, you move slower through time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they proved that. And then even the first picture that we got of our black hole showed the bends in light that the massive gravity holds, whatever. So this paradigm of like, okay, what are the practical implications of this new paradigm that Donald Hoffman is describing? Well, he would say that if we understand reality at a fundamental level, we could, if we can transcend space-time, imagine there was galaxies that we can't reach now because of the constraints of the speed of light or whatever, then we could magically get there because of whatever way we understand reality now. But I do think when you want to, it depends on what you want. Like I just want to know I'd love to know what this whole thing is. You know what I mean? I think that's a massive, like, it's like you're watching a TV show and the season finale is where they show everything, right? Because we're probably going to die before we discover, well, every generation's going to discover more and more and more. So you're always going to miss there's always going to be a season finale that you miss, right? But, so I'd love to know. That's why it's like, I'd love to just know before I die. Do you know what I mean? Maybe I'll find out when you die. Who knows? But
Do you know what? Maybe I'm coming to the point now where I'm like, he says like he's 80, but maybe I'm coming to a point where I go, do you know what? I'm happy to learn. I want to learn. I really do. I'd love to learn more about us, but I'm also comfortable with saying to a point. Ignorance is bliss to a certain point.
Yeah.
Ignorance is bliss, and I just want to get on with my life. And
yeah.
I swear to God, like like nowadays they say everything is very confusing, and everything needs to be highlighted all the time. Everything needs to be taken from that quiet, and it needs to be brought out onto the table. It feels like everything, and you're going, well, lads, if you don't highlight it the whole time, there's no issue. If you don't highlight it, not that there's no issue, you get what I mean. But everything just seems to be so bloody confusing now that when people go, you need to talk about, for example, trans rights, gay rights, black rights, whatever it might be, I just go, hang on. I'm just going through my life, try not to get into it with anybody. I just let you be, do your thing. Why can't it be that fucking simple? So when people start coming out with all these psychological things that are just way too out there, I'm like,
Just keep it simple. Man.
just keep it simple, man. Like, honestly, yeah, like, do you know what? Yeah, and again, I just realised right at the end there, I probably come across like such a stupid fella.
But like, when you want
but there is definitely a value to just keep it bloody simple.
100%. Because all this sort of philosophising and intellectualising, who's to say that that's even a worthy endeavour in terms of, well, you're the one who can say it. So whatever you decide is how you're going to live, is how you live, and that's all that matters. So if you say that I'm not going to, this stuff is just good luck. I actually, there's other things that are worthy of my time or more worthy of my time, then that's fine. You know what I mean? And then as long as obviously it doesn't hurt anybody else, like that's kind of the golden rule or whatever. And hurting people in not just like physically but psychologically or economically, you know what I mean? You're not putting badness out into the world. Well, then you're grand. You know what I mean? But even then, you know, Hitler probably thought he was doing grand as well.
Don't they always?
Yeah.
Don't they always? Do you want to give us one more of these?
I
then?
do.
Actually,
I want to give you a question, right?
Yeah.
That you suggested to me actually, and I wrote it down. I didn't put it on my cheat sheet though. So just so you can answer your own question, really. But who's your favorite ex? You said to put that down. You said to put that down.
That was a joke.
Yeah.
That was a joke.
All right. Well, then we won't.
It's Magdalena though.
Magdalena.
Yeah. She was really fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah. No, there's no Magdalena.
Magdalena, why did you leave?
That would have been brilliant though if that came out in genuine conversation where you were like, okay, so who's your favorite ex?
Yeah.
With no build up. That would be fun, dude. That's car crash TV.
What would be the worst question?
What do you mean?
What would be the worst question?
The worst question.
Like,
who was the worst in bed? Like, who's the worst in bed? Like, I don't know.
What's your biggest insecurity? But that's not even a bad question. What's you'd have to know if you knew how to jab the person. It would be a tailored bad question.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's questions like, how did you get here? Like, there's probably shit questions. Imagine you did a whole podcast just asking mundane questions. Like, what do you think of the table? And they're like, oh, I think blah, blah.
Didn't even notice it.
And then they just stop. And then, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. But I was actually just saying in general, all right, what do you think about the floor? And you just kept asking that for an hour or something. Maybe that would be bad.
Do you know what? Do you know the channel Mr. Beast? I've said this to you before. That sounds like something he would do.
Like a mock podcast.
Like, exactly. Where he would just ask the most pointless questions and he'd do an hour of that. And you know what? He'd still get 50
You don't even ask questions. You just go, hey.
Hey, what's up?
And you just kind of look at them. And then you're just like, we're rolling.
We are.
Yeah, you just kind of leave
for an hour.
Yeah. And it's like, wow.
Like this right now, where everyone has actually just tuned out.
Yeah.
But give me one more. No, go on, one more.
What do we have?
I wish we had done a segment of these earlier on. I would have loved to. But we'll close out on one.
Alright,
and then I'm going to give you one.
Okay. So, let me think. Actually, this is interesting. What's your favourite movie? Because I want to know your favorite
yeah.
movie.
Who knows their favorite movie?
Well, when you were,
I can tell you my
what
most watched
inspired
one.
you? What's the most watched?
The one I don't know what the movies that I watch at the earliest point of my life, like single digits. RoboCop, Jaws.
RoboCop, like no wonder, man. You made
That's
it so
legit
easy.
as well. That's legit.
Oh, man.
RoboCop, Jaws, Highlander, and Walker Texas Ranger with Chuck Norris. They were what I remember from being like 4.
Young Crow.
A young crow.
Yeah.
But the director by far was Quentin Tarantino. By far.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't even say that I write or direct anything like him, but he was just the inspiration in terms of he was crazy enough and wild enough and vocal enough that he was like, get out and do it. And I just love the energy of it. So, with Tarantino, but I don't know my favorite movie, but
What's the best movie you've seen in recent memory?
Jesus.
That's a nicer one. I need to reformulate these questions.
What did I watch in the last year?
I'll tell you one I seen that was
Yes,
amazing.
please.
Did you see Another Round? So
No.
it's a German film. Lots of cream. No, yes, it's German and it's subtitled and it's about these kind of college professors who they're reading this philosopher and the philosopher is basically telling them that everyone should drink a bit, so they have to keep their blood alcohol like 0.05, so just a little bit, like 2 glasses of wine or whatever. And so they go, geez, well, will we try this? And they're all they're in different parts of their life, and then they all start drinking, and they all try to maintain this blood alcohol. They're all testing it, and I won't I'll leave it there because it's one of the best. It was such a beautiful film, so heartwarming, and towards the end as well.
That doesn't sound like that at
It's
all.
amazing. It won an Oscar, I believe. Well, at least it was
George
nominated.
Clooney won an Oscar. Right? I mean, what's an Oscar mean nowadays?
Well,
Will Smith won an Oscar.
it was on the top 10 of a few
No, I
lists.
know. I Another Round.
It's amazing.
Okay,
It was
all right. I'll
fucking
give it a
brilliant.
look. I don't know. I can tell you that. You see, here's the thing. I actually struggle to sit down and watch movies.
Wow.
Yeah. It's happened. It's sort of crept up on me where just one day I was like, I don't have the patience to sit down and watch one anymore. I put on like an hour-long documentary.
Yeah.
And that'll do me. Or else I'll watch a movie in 2 parts. I can't actually, unless it's really
Yeah, I'll watch
fantastic.
it in 2 parts.
Yeah, I can't sit down because I'm sitting there and I'm going, I should be doing something. The most watched movie by far is The Girl Next Door. Alicia Cuthbert and Emile Hirsch, directed by Luke Greenfield. Outstanding movie. It's about this teenager who's got high hopes for being the president of the United States, and an ex-porn star moves in next door, and he falls in love with her. And it's a teen comedy.
Yeah.
But it's actually just a lovely movie. So any time where you're like, I'm not sure what to put on,
Just stick that.
Girl Next Door. It's just brilliant. Like, it's so good. And the soundtrack is unreal in it. So people who are watching, and I know this, 9 out of 10 years who have seen The Girl Next Door are going, he's right. He's right. That's great.
I will check it out.
And then there's always that one.
There's another film, just because we talked about Bo Burnham before this, but Bo Burnham, he directed a film called 8th Grade. You didn't hear about that or anything?
No, I never even heard of Bo Burnham.
We'll have to you'll need to brush up for the next episode.
For the next
of the
episode.
Basil Brain podcast, Basil Brain Boombox, whatever the fuck we're calling it. It's actually, we did alright, I think. Just a bit tired, you know.
Was that it?
Fucking... No, I haven't hit stop yet.
Oh, jeez, I was like, that's it.
But I like to finish up in real time, you know what I mean? Like, I like to actually just say, I give my closing statements and arguments
All right.
now, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then I close it, you know what I mean? But yeah, no, I was just a little bit tired before this one, but I think it went well.
Yeah.
I think we did alright.
You were good, kid, real good.
Yeah, we'll see you anyway. And we'll catch you on the next time.